Kevin Clash made Sesame Street's Elmo the global phenomenon he is today. He worked with the Muppets, starring as Clifford, who went on to host Muppets Tonight. He puppeteered and voiced Master Splinter in the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films and puppeteered Agra on the Netflix series The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. His numerous other credits include Captain Kangaroo, The Great Space Coasters, Dinosaurs, where he played Baby Sinclair, Happytime Murders, and Earth to Ned. Kevin Clash is my guest on this episode of Under the Puppet. You're listening to Saturday Morning Media. And now, back to our show. Welcome to the show that is preserving puppetry through the personal stories of professional puppeteers. My name is Grant Pachoco, and this is Under the Puppet. Well, Kevin Clash, welcome to Under the Puppet.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you today.
It's been a long time. You've been trying to get me to do this. Okay.
I know. Do you remember your first exposure to puppetry, like the first time seeing puppets on TV?
It was definitely something that Jim was doing. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I saw him, because I think it might have been Sesame, but it might have been something even before that. But I don't know, because Muppets and Men he did, and then those specials, Muppets of Brenham, and those different.
Right.
So I really don't know, but I know it had to do with something that I watched that Jim was doing.
Right.
Definitely. I was fascinated with what Jim was doing, the Muppets were doing, and Disney. And I literally put construction paper, wrote in crayon saying, I want to go to Disney World. And I put it in the bathroom and everywhere. Yeah. But I think it definitely had to do with something that Jim was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I know from the documentary that your parents were very supportive of your career and your passion in puppetry. Right. Were they creative?
Very. Yeah. My mom sewed. She taught me how to sew on the Singer. She had a Singer sewing machine. My mom would make dresses, and then she would take the rest of the material and cover shoes to match your dresses. And then my dad was amazing. He was a really good artist. He was always drawing, had pastels, and he was always creating stuff. He was a handyman in the neighborhood, so he was always very creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you started creating your own puppet shows and performing them around Baltimore, what were those early shows like?
Well, it was really funny. They were like what a child would do in the time that I started watching TV. So my shows were the commercials were there was a jingle, I'm stuck on Band-Aids because Band-Aids stuck on me.
Right. And
I had a mummy come up and sing that. Or there was the other one was to all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on sesame seed bun. And I had a hamburger would sing that. But then I was into my mom and especially my mom was into Motown and all of that stuff. So all of my shows were, Earth, Wind and Fire. I loved Helen Reddy. So I did You and Me Against the World with a mother skunk and a little baby skunk. I did You Light Up My Life, which was Pat Boone's daughter. I forget her name.
Debbie Boone?
Debbie Boone.
Yeah.
And so I did that with a couple of lightning bugs, and there was another song that I did. So it was all taking place as far as what was happening on TV and what the music, the big hits were at the time.
And was your show like interchangeable? Like you would work a new piece in?
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that?
I mean, next time I would do probably, what's her name? The Carpenters. I would do We Only Just Begun, and I'd have two babies puppets singing that. So so if I saw something, that day or whatever, I saw something on TV, I'd go and make the puppets version, and a new song come out, I just pop it in the show.
Wow, that's amazing.
My dad would take me to all of the shows. He would drive me and everything. He built my first puppet stage, and I learned about PV sound system, speakers and stuff like that. So, yeah, they were very supportive.
Yeah,
always been. Yeah.
How did you figure out? When you were doing these shows, were you charging for them? Like if you performed it for daycare or what? I mean, your mom's daycare you didn't, but
yeah, like $25 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they would give me, you know, and then I would do city fairs and stuff like that. They'd give me, you know, through the fair, they'd give me like $50 or something like that. Yeah. So I did something.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
But you were also doing, because you mentioned the documentary, that you did benefit shows as well, too.
Yeah, I did a bunch of, for people, you know, for raising money, you know, for different causes and stuff like that, in the neighborhood, or, you know, if they needed money for the recreation hall or something like that, I would do a puppet show to raise money for them and stuff like that. And I was always doing the muscular dystrophy, telethon and stuff like that.
Do you think that creating your own shows like that is a good starting place for puppeteers?
Oh, I think so, definitely, because you tend to get into because we're all influenced by Jim Henson, the Muppets, Captain Kangaroo, and all that stuff. And when you do it yourself, and you're creating your own, and you can learn what you can do and what type of voices you can do without mimicking other like doing a Kermit the Frog voice, or a Fozzie voice. You're creating and developing your own. So I think it's very good to start off as soon as possible that way.
Yeah. Do you think if the internet and like YouTube and stuff had been as it is today, back when you were a kid, you would have had a YouTube channel and doing your puppets on YouTube and stuff?
Oh, I definitely, in a second. I think I definitely would have. I was into animation. I love doing animation. And I was down at the recreation hall, doing little puppet shows, and I knew how to get the kids, because there was this woman, Miss Fleming. She had a candy. You could buy candy from her. And so I'd buy all this candy and tell the kids, hey, free candy. And I'd have a big packed audience of kids. And I would just read like these little books, children's books, and I'd build the puppets based on it, and I would do those stories.
Yeah. Awesome. Did you ever take any acting classes?
No.
I
did, in high school, I played Sky Masterson and Guys and Dolls. I did that. I played Fagin with Oliver and had a great time. I enjoyed it, but no, I never took any acting. No.
Yeah, and then what about, because you've done a lot of singing? Have you ever taken any singing? No.
Nope. Just around the house, and then I was into high school. I was definitely with the Glee Club, and I was one of the singers, and and I love singing, but no, that was as far as it went, as far as high school.
Yeah. Well, I would love to talk about how you met Stu Kerr and got onto Caboose.
Well, it was interesting because you were talking about, the shows that I was doing when I was young. Where was I? I was doing my show at one of the fairs in Baltimore, in the Dundalk area where I was born. And he had a show called Professor Cool's Fun School. And so he would do that at all these different, fairs and stuff like that. So he saw me, and he really liked the show. He saw the whole, me doing all these songs from all these songs with the puppets and these commercials and stuff like that. And he went up to my mom and he said, I would love for Kevin to come in and audition, because I'm in the process of doing a new show. I'm gonna finish doing Professor Cool's Fun School, and I want to do it, and I'd love for him to audition. And she said, sure. So that's how I met Stu. He was doing Professor Cool's Fun School at the fair. So,
and this new show, was it sort of like a Caboose, a Captain Kangaroo type, same style, or like a hosted cartoon show, or?
It was no, it was definitely more like Captain Kangaroo. And it's funny that you say that, because Stu was in the service with Bob Keeshan, and they became what do you call them? They worked together at ABC. They were pages. I forget what pages, what you do when you're page at those, but they were pages. And then Stu moved to Baltimore, because they were in New York. Moved to Baltimore, and then Keeshan, of course, stayed in New York and created. He started doing Buffalo.
Yeah, Howdy Doody.
Howdy Doody, and then he went on to do Rudy Kazootie. No, that was Gus Allegretti did Rudy Kazootie, and that's how they met. But Keeshan started doing Captain Kangaroo, and the rest is history with him. But he would still invite Stu to come up and do characters on Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah.
And I think that Stu was kind of influenced by, you know, the whole idea of, you know, Captain Kangaroo, where he would be the host of it and play all these different characters and stuff like that. And so it was very much like Captain Kangaroo. But it was a lot of fun. It was, you know, he just would do anything he would do anything. And it was hysterical. And it was wonderful to see that. It was interesting at the local television station because a lot of the anchor people at the station kind of looked down at him because he would come out of the bathroom, you know, in drag, full drag, doing something, but he was the weatherman on that station,
right?
But they just thought it would be beneath them to do all of that. But he, you know, he was a very funny guy, and he just wanted to entertain and make people laugh, so he didn't care.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of weathermen in that time period, they were all like the kid show hosts or Dialing for Dollars or
it was
whatever
crazy.
it is.
I mean, you know, what's his name? Willard Scott.
Yeah.
Was and I remember seeing Willard a bunch of times. You know, I'm Al Roker, who's a friend of mine. Yeah, a lot of them, you know, they would go off and do other things, you know, and they would be the silly ones, actually.
Right. Yeah. How many puppet characters did you do on that show? Was it just countless? No, on Caboose.
Oh, Caboose. Well, the main character was Barty. And that came from a guy, Tony Barty, who I went to school with. And I liked his last name, so I created this character called Barty. And then any other puppet, you know, and then sometimes Stu would attempt to puppeteer because we didn't have nobody else to do it.
Yeah.
But I did a bunch of. It was like I was building puppets, you know, after school, and on Fridays I'd go to the station and we'd shoot the show. You know, most of the clothes that was on the puppets were my clothes actually. So it was pretty funny, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Were you using a monitor?
Yes.
Yeah. Was that how you got your training? Monitor training was on that show?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I knew nothing. And he had and you know, Stu, I don't know, since he wrote everything, he just remembered everything. I mean, I think he was really good at memorizing and stuff. But I remember having these long, instead of doing little pieces of paper, you know, he had these cue card papers. I would stick them all back behind the counter, you know, with this monitor and everything. But that was the beginning. Yeah, that was the beginning of it. And then I remember meeting Jim for the first time, and he asked me what I was doing, how I was doing, and you know, and he said, "Wow, you really learned a lot before coming up, and didn't even know that was the right way to do it." So
yeah.
So the training was great with Stu early on. It was great.
Yeah. You were also around the same time, and this, I don't know, I read this online, so who knows if it's true all the time, but you performed a pelican character in Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Same time?
That's so weird. No, it was a show called Zepp, and it took place on a Zeppelin. And it was actually it was this really cool actor. I forget, Bob Grossman. I think it was Bob Grossman. And there was this wonderful young lady, African-American young lady who was on it. And it all took place. So it was a pelican. I built a pelican. I can't believe remember you found that. Pelican, the captain of the Zepp. And I think there was a couple of other characters, but I built them all. And unfortunately, I had to stop doing the show because the Glee Club that I was in school, there was a possibility we were going to tour with them internationally. And of course, I stopped doing the show. And it didn't happen. So, and I couldn't go back because they already recast and put other people in and stuff like that. But yeah, it was called Zepp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. That was in Washington, D.C. We shot that.
Yeah. And so would you go there like once a week or?
Yeah. We go once a week. God, it's so weird that I remember sitting there. We were waiting to shoot, and we were sitting there watching the live broadcast of Elvis's live show, you know, that he did. It was a concert that he did, and that's when he was, you know, pretty, you know, it was challenging for him, let's put it that way. But I remember that we were waiting in the green room, and so that was all in I forget, WTOP, I think it was channel WTOP that we shot that. That was fun. That was a really cool show.
It seems that it's funny because there's a lot of puppeteers who I've interviewed who were able to kind of get that break in local television before, you know, like when they're just starting out. And a lot of it comes from, oh, this person saw me perform just like you. And you know, we just interviewed Jay Johnson, the ventriloquist, and it was the same. Somebody saw him perform and was like,
you go.
Hey, come do this show. Yeah.
And then what happened off of it, you know, I got, of course, I got Zep from Caboose. I got Zep. I got in Caboose. Oh, I did Romper Room. I built these puppets for all of the Mrs. Nancy's and blah blah blah. They called Doc, and I had to make 300 of those to go to all of the stations where Miss such and such, and I got $10 a piece building them. I also did a show called Mr. Rainbow's Room at the same station that I did Caboose at, and it was through the archdiocese, so we had to pray before we started and everything. But it was a cool show, and I did this character called Shinkle or something like that, and we kept getting it wrong and saying Tinkle, and it was like an Afghan dog or something like that. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So it just started expanding all these different, you know, I just start doing all these local TV shows.
Yeah. Well, I would love to ask you about Kermit Love, who was sort of your mentor early on anyway, got you up into that next level.
He was amazing.
TV.
Very talented guy.
Yeah.
Very, 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 a character, but he was amazing. We went up to New York through school, my 12th grade, and prior to that, my mom, I saw him on a show called Call It Macaroni, and what it did is they would find somebody professional in their business, successful in their business, and they would have two kids, a girl and a boy, that would then spend a day with them, and that person would, you know, tell them about how they do stuff. And so the episode had Kermit on, and it was beautiful. He took them to a shop, and then he took them to Central Park, and he had them with this long rattan rods with butterflies on it, and they were swinging it all through Central. It was beautiful. And so I said, Mom, you got to call him. I got to talk to him. And so she started calling the local PBS station, and lo and behold, she got a hold of through the PBS station, and we called, and he called back, and he said, well, whenever I'm up in New York, you know, look him up. And so I did. And he said, well, we've already cast for this season of Sesame, so we can't get, but, you know, I'll keep your mind. And he did. And so other projects that he would get, he would have me come up and do it. And then this was during the time that the Muppet movie had just come out, the first one. And they wanted the bus in the Macy's parade from the Muppet movie, and they still had the Sesame Street float. So he asked me would I'd like to do, you know, Macy's, and I said yes, but I had to get permission from my mom because I was 17 at the time, and I had to come up the night before. So he had a little bedroom in his in his workshop. So I stayed and we had to go, you know, I had to get up at like 7 to go to the Macy's parade. So that was fun. So Kermit was very influential as far as definitely getting me to work with Sesame, but also work with Jim.
Yeah. And he showed you, according to the documentary, he showed you like how to improve your own puppets, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
No, he actually let me actually build some things while I was at his shop, you know, because Jim Kroupa and Matthew Stoddard and I forget John, they worked for Kermit, and so they actually helped me learn how to do and what type of materials to get and stuff like that. So that was really, really, really fun. And also, you know, he recommended me for the Great Space Coaster. Mm-hmm. That was a show that he designed all the puppets for, and so I got to do that. There was a you see it in the documentary. There was a show called Big Blue Marble, where they interviewed young kids doing, you know, unusual or fun stuff, careers already. And they got a hold of him and said, "Do you know anybody that we could interview with you?" And he said, "Well, yes, I do." And what was so funny is I was so young at the time. I needed, but I was a little too old. They had a certain age, and he actually said to me, "You'll need to shave," and I was so excited because I didn't think anybody noticed my little peach hair was coming in. So I had to shave for that to get the job. But that was a wonderful show, and they got to use it in the documentary.
Yeah, all that footage is fantastic.
Yeah, it's people still, they were shooting that long with you.
It's been years in the making.
Years. I mean, wow. Who sponsored? Who paid for it?
Should puppeteers try to seek out a mentor like you had Kermit, or try and find someone like that can kind of show them how things work?
Of course. I think in any occupation, I think it'd be great for people to be inspired by someone and hopefully, get some pointers from them. I think it's definitely worked for me. I mean, my mother and father being my first mentors, into Stu Kerr and then Jim Henson, and I think and of course Kermit, influenced me. I mean, it was wonderful to have all of that. I mean, I remember even having a conversation with Kermit about, because he was wondering, should I really go to college? Should I really do that? And then he thought, well, the things that you're going to learn, hands-on, is going to be more valuable. I mean, if your parents want you to go, go. But, and so, I remember that conversation with him about that. And he was right. I mean, it was very right. I mean, listen, everybody should go to college. I mean, I think if I did go to college, I would go and learn about business. I think all of the stuff that you just can't put on a puppet. Right. You know what I mean? You have to learn how to
read a contract
or deal with a business. So, but I did get that hands-on also. Having conversations with friends of mine that was in it. So, no, it was. I really respected the mentors that I had because I always had really great conversations. Even Bob Keeshan was when we would start a season, he would sit and they would just reminisce. And it was wonderful to sit around and watch them reminisce about, their careers and where it went and all that stuff. And so it was great to be so young.
Yeah.
And listen to these amazing stories from these people. It was great.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Captain Kangaroo and Bob Keeshan, and I know that Stu Kerr helped you make an audition tape to get on.
So sweet, so sweet. Yeah, he. Well, what happened is I did that year that I did the Macy's Thanksgiving Day. Kermit, got me on it because they all were there for the Muppets movie. They all after the Macy's parade, you go into Macy's and there's a big party. And so I got to meet Jim for the first time, and Richard Hunt was there. It was so funny. And I was in the bathroom, and Richard was talking to me, and Richard was like, "Now you listen, don't be shy. Go up and tell him, what you want to do and how you blah 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 blah." And so then I go up and I meet him. And Kermit, and so Jim was saying, well, what have you been doing? So Kermit said, well, he has Captain Kangaroo. I mean, he's doing Captain Kangaroo, doing these shows. He has these shows, and what can you? And he actually Jim asked me, could I stay up? And I said, and before I could say I can't, Kermit said, no, he has to go back because he has these 2 shows that he's doing. And so that's how the video came about. Because he said, well, just send me a video. And then Stu said, well, we'll do it here. I'll interview you, and you pull all the puppets up, and you do it.
Oh, that's incredible. Now, Captain Kangaroo, I do want to ask a few questions about it. You had obviously seen the show before you worked on
Captain Kangaroo?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you hadn't? No.
That wasn't a show that I watched.
Okay.
I watched Sesame. Like I said, I watched anything Muppets, but not Captain Kangaroo for some reason.
Yeah.
But then, of course, once Stu started talking to me about it, I watched it then.
Yeah.
And then Stu, of course, is the one who got me to go up and work on it, which was great.
Well, and you worked alongside on that show with Cosmo Allegretti, and he
was hysterical.
Mr. Moose and Bunny Rabbit. Yeah, what kind of puppeteer was he like? Because we don't hear a lot about it.
That man was the most macho puppeteer I've ever met. He was strict Italian, but he was so funny. He was a very, very underrated puppeteer. He was one of the funniest people. he's right up there with Frank Oz to me. You know, Gus on his when he wasn't doing that show, he would go and race horses in these different countries. He was a very. I think that there should be a wonderful documentary on Captain Kangaroo, just about, you know, Lumpy Brenham, who played Mr. Green Jeans, and they even started using the stage director, who's this African American guy that was really cool. They put him on the show, but Gus. First of all, he was an amazing artist. Amazing artist, and him and watching him do Mr. Moose and Bunny Rabbit is the funniest thing. And he would crack Keeshan up so much that the spirit gum, you know, off his wig would pop off, and then after another hour to put it all back on. He could make Keeshan cry laughing. There was one time that Gus came in with a hangover, and they were doing this quick thing with Mr. Moose and Bunny Rabbit, but Mr. Moose was talking, hey, Captain, blah, blah, blah. And you know, Keeshan, where's Bun? Where's Bunny? And he puts his hands up. There's no puppet there. He's just like this, and he's like, well, something's wrong. and I think Gus said, well, he was playing craps the night before, and he lost everything. He lost everything. Yeah. This is all he has now. I'm sorry, Captain. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
I remember one time they had a new stage director who was there, and he was you know, the director was saying cue the rabbit, cue blah blah, and so Gus is there, but you know, and this guy's sweating, and finally Gus gets up and said, "You have to cue me. You can't cue the puppet." And he was just, yeah. No, but it was a really wonderful show to work on. That is, you know, legendary. You know, they finished. I think they went till, I think it was the 29th season they got to, and then I mean CBS was very respectful to Keeshan, because his ratings at the end of wasn't doing very well, but they respected. I mean, he kind of was with Milton Berle, top comedy show. You know, but you know, Captain Kangaroo was the top children's show back then. So they really respected him, which was really cool to see.
Well, and you even made some on-camera appearances as well on the show.
Please, of course you would bring that up. Kevin, the college student.
Did you enjoy that, or you were just like, I want to be puppets? Don't make me do
what?
This.
I was so green and gray, or whatever you call it. I was excited about doing anything, so I did it. And but it was, oh my God, I was so bad at it. It was so funny. It was so funny. And the cue cards. And I remember the first time, you know, because, all right, Mr. Green Jeans, everything is green. You know, his lines are green, Captain's red. And so they're saying it. So, and I actually said, am I black? Am I black? And they fell out, because that's the color of my lines were black.
Right.
No, it was a fun show.
When I was looking up stuff, just different things for this interview, I saw a picture of Gus. And he's like fixing a puppet, but he's got a cigarette in his hand.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just thought it was like when you said he was a big macho guy. It's like, here he is doing the puppets. He's got a cigarette in his hand ready to...
He married, I think he married, you could check this out, but he married the woman who originated Maria on Broadway. I don't know how long. They got a divorce, but he was married to this beautiful lady for a long time. He's just that's why I'm saying it's so funny that he did puppets, because you know you could see him, like, you know. I mean, he was he just really slick, and he was a great actor. He did movies. He did movies acting not as himself, but I think there was one called Arthur with Al Pacino, playing like this actor / you know, director or producer or whatever, and Gus was in that. He was really good, very talented. Like you said, underrated.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, some of those old Mr. Moose, Captain Kangaroo clips are so funny, like just
classics.
Yeah, hilarious.
He never, he never played it like Kitty. He never played a kitty. And he did Dancing Bear, and he did Father Clock, Father Time. I forget, was it? I think it was Father Clock or something like that. But he did all these different characters and stuff like that. And I love watching him do the puppets that I would build for him too. You know, which was really funny. We did a bunch of stuff together, which was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's like Uncle.
Yeah,
yeah.
I forget Uncle. I forget.
I watched one where it's
Artie, and his character was Uncle something. I don't know.
Where an alien comes down and it has the gun that'll give you anything, and he just wants pie, and you're like,
yes.
no, we can have anything. And he's like, oh, I kind of want pie.
The writing was really fun.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
It's a beautiful night, Uncle Ralph. Wow, look at those stars.
Who cares about stars? I'm hungry. I want to go home, have a slice of pie, and play some checkers.
Well, it's good for you to walk outside. Besides, who knows? We might even see a UFO.
A what?
A flying saucer.
And kid, you've been seeing too many movies. I don't want to see any saucers. I just want to see a plate with a slice of apple pie on it.
But I got to meet a bunch of really cool people that would come in on the show. Debbie Allen, you know, they would have a bunch of celebrities that would come on.
Right.
It was a fun show.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Great Space Coaster that you worked on there. Can you talk about some of the puppeteers that you worked with on that show?
On what? Great Space?
Great Space Coaster, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Jim Martin, who was just fabulous with Gary Gnu. Who else? What other puppeteers? So it was me. Oh, of course, John Lovelady.
John Lovelady.
Who was wonderful. John was hired, I think, before any of us came in there. So it was me, Jim Martin, John Lovelady. Oh, and Frank Kane, who played Baxter, who was wonderful. Jim did Empty Promises also, which was a costume character. We did a bunch of characters. I mean, then Pam Arciero came in and did some work with the Puffles, I think they were called. Who else? Am I forgetting somebody? Am I forgetting anybody?
Did Noel McNeil?
Noel came in towards the end.
Towards the end, right.
But I forget what puppet he was doing. I forget what puppets he was doing at the time. Because they started adding. I know I did Jock Ox, and I did a bunch of different characters on that show. But it was a lot of fun because that was the first time that I didn't just do puppeteering. I was associate producer of the Puppeteers. Which I don't know what them. I mean, it's like a foreman for them or something like that. But
yeah.
But that was a fun show. I thought the puppets were great, and again, got to meet a lot of and work with a lot of great celebrities.
Yeah.
You know, that was fun.
Well, in the documentary, you talk about how you turned down Dark Crystal because you had Captain Kangaroo and you had Great Space Coaster. Looking back, was that the right decision to turn them down and keep working on those shows?
Yeah. Again, my mentor Kermit sat down and talked to me, and he said, "Listen, you have 2 TV shows, and I know you're excited about doing a movie, but he said, you don't give up 2 TV shows for a movie." He said, it's going to happen. You're gonna do one again. And I had just met Gina at the time. I met my ex-wife. I had met her then, and I didn't really want to leave that long, because we had to shoot in London. So when he said that, it was a sigh of relief, but it still freaked me out that I asked that I had to say no to Jim.
Yeah.
And I remember Duncan Kenworthy is one of Jim's producers, and he's the one who called me to see if I was interested in doing it. And then we set up a meeting to talk with Jim, and I went, no, but this is a mentor for you, that sometimes you shouldn't listen to everything. She told me, when you go in, ask him how much you're getting. I said, really, Kermit? I don't know if I should. Yes, ask him how much. And so I go in to Jim and I say, I have these 2 shows, and I don't know. How much are you? And he said, well, hold on 1 second. And he went out, because Duncan was out there and came back, and he told me, and I just said, I don't think I can do it. Not for the money, but I just think I can't, And he said, I understand, no problem. And then I left, and they were building all of the creatures, and they had the designs that Brian Froud had, because at that point, the office and the shop was in one building. Mm-hmm. So his office was up, and then you go down, and there was and so all of the creatures that they were, and I was like, I just turned this down, and the stuff looked great, but lo and behold, it was the right decision because then I got Labyrinth after that, and started doing a bunch more movies. So, and the time that they were doing Labyrinth was a good time for me to take on something like that. So, I don't think I had any shows happening, any TV shows happening at that time. So.
Yeah, I did want to ask about one thing that I found today, which I thought was interesting, was I guess it was just a direct to VHS maybe type thing called Wrinkles in Need of Cuddles.
Oh my goodness!
Which you built all the puppets for,
bring
right?
Back? No, I didn't build them.
Oh, I thought.
No, I didn't build them. There was there must have been. There was a wonderful builder that they actually built for Muppets and stuff like that. Jim Henson Company. She built all of them. I didn't direct it.
You were listed as producer because I saw the credits.
No, I produced. I was producer on it.
Yeah.
But what was funny is my father. God, this is terrible. My father built the set.
Oh, really?
And he had to drive up to New York and he didn't know where he was going. The sets got there really late. I was really freaking out. But my father, God bless him, he built the sets and stuff like that. He helped to build the sets and everything. No, we had somebody that actually designed the sets, but my father built them and everything. So it was kind of a labor of, family and everything. But it was fun. It was fun. Those are the people that actually helped create the animated versions of the Peanuts.
Oh, okay.
So it was their production company.
Their project,
or something, yeah.
Was that the first time you produced something? Or you been listed as producer, or had you done stuff?
No, I think I had gotten that associate producer title of Great Space Coaster before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was interesting.
What more does that add to your job when you become like either associate producer or producer?
Well, you have to be more involved. You're involved with all of the production meetings. You're involved with, having some say as far as, how something is shot and what needs to be built for puppets and stuff like that. So you're more involved than just putting the puppet on.
Right.
Which is fun. I mean, that's why it was really, really, really fun to be able to, and Richard Hunt was very instrumental in this. First movie I did, of course, was Labyrinth. And Jim asked Richard, did he think that I could be somebody who could, be kind of a puppet captain, and it was around the time that Jim was starting to use other puppeteers, and and it was kind of challenging for Richard because Jim wasn't thinking about using him for Labyrinth. And so, but Richard said, Kevin could do it. And he gave me that opportunity. Like he gave me Elmo. It's crazy. Richard's been very, very helpful in my career. Yeah. And so I got to do that and I worked with Brian Henson for the first time. He was puppet captain. I was assistant puppet captain. And that was really a lot of fun, really a lot of fun. And, not just to go over and, again, put on puppets. But, yeah, it was an interesting time.
Well, I do want to talk about Richard Hunt because, regrettably, on this podcast, we haven't talked a lot about him. We've mentioned him and stuff like that. But I would love to know from you, who worked with him, like what kind of performer was he, and what did you learn from him?
Richard Hunt was hysterical. First of all, he was the favorite on the Muppet Show, but all the celebrities loved him because he was always this quirky, not quirky, but really cool, hip with the people, and they loved working with him. He was so wonderful to any of us new puppeteers coming in because he would always take us under our wing, and a lot of times he'd come in when he was tired and he would say, I don't want to do that pig. I'll tell him, you want to do that pig? You do that pig in that next scene. So he was always like with Dave Rudman and I and stuff like that, or Marty. He would always be throwing his stuff to him. He was so cool and so wonderful and so funny. And he had this way that, you would be shooting something and he'd be reading the newspaper underneath the set with the puppet on, and they'd be counting down, And he go 3, 2, and he put the newspaper down and put the puppet up and just go. He was always kind of this cool, laid back, and he was amazing with his talent. That, first of all, amazing singer. I mean, it's history now that he gave me Elmo, because Brian Mule, who's another phenomenal, talented all around. He was working on Sesame Street at the time, and then he went on to do a lot of projects with Jim. He did Dark Crystal and all of that stuff, and he originated Elmo. And then he left to pursue his writing and acting career. And then Richard took it and started screaming with the puppet. And he hated it, and the head writer hated him doing it. So that's how I got it from him. He was so wonderful. I remember he would just do these impromptu parties at his house where he'd just tell everybody, all the puppeteers, and we would come over and we'd run out and get the alcohol and get the food and get all this stuff for him. And he was the one who everybody, I'm telling you, everybody gravitated to.
Yeah.
He was the glue. I think and Jim would say this too. He was the glue of all those Muppeteers. I mean, he was the party one. He was the one who could get it going, and it was so wonderful to be around him that way. I remember when they did the 30th anniversary of the Muppets. We were shooting that day, and he said, "Yeah, come on over, because I want to throw a puppet. I want to throw a party, for the night that it's on." And it was me, Pam Osiero, Marty Robinson, Dave Rudman. We all ran over and got a turkey. I think it was around the holidays, around Christmas and stuff like that. And we heard him on the phone with his mom crying, watching, because he was reminiscing. He was watching the special, and it was his life. And we heard him, and he was a sweet, wonderful, another underrated, wonderful, wonderful man. Really, really cool and very funny. He came down to my wedding, and Jane came and Heather came, and and I remember my sister Nita. "Oh, you can dance! You can dance!" He said, "Yeah, I know I can dance." They was dancing on the dance floor. He was somebody who would always be there for you. Yeah. With anything. But one thing he would not let you do, if you went out and having dinner with him, he would not let you pay, to the point where people would get mad with him, because he had to pay for everybody's meal. Yeah. And he had this black checkered cab that he painted. He had painted and custom made black. It was a big one of those big bubble checker cabs. And he was a character, but he was very loving, very sweet, very funny, very talented guy.
Well, I want to ask you about Sesame Street, and the whole film was made about it. But lucky getting to work with you. I've heard you tell a couple stories that, if you don't mind, I would love for you to tell here. But one I would love to hear is somebody say toothpaste, because I think it's such a hilarious story.
No, oh my goodness, oh, no, it's hilarious because it's so Jim Henson. Yeah, it is so Jim Henson. We used to record all of these, the songs for Sesame at this recording studio called NOLA Recording. Wonderful place, wonderful. It was like family, all the engineers, Jim Zach, who ran it. We loved going there. And so this was one of those days where Jim and Frank would come in and record songs, and we would record with them. And there was this song called Somebody Say Toothpaste, and it was like a gospel song with gospel singers and everything, and Jim was supposed to do the lead of it, and so I was there, and he said, "You know what? You should sing this. You should sing the lead." Really? Yeah, you should sing. So I recorded it, and all right, the day it comes, we're going to shoot it and everything, and there was had to be about probably 6 gospel singers in the background, and of course I was the lead, so I was in front. And we start to shoot it, and then all of a sudden, we're watching, and Jim is the one who taught us about, you right, left, right, unison as far as doing it, so that everybody's doing the same thing and it looks great. So we start shooting, and I'm actually trying to do my puppet, and I'm seeing in the background one of the puppets not going with the rhythm of it, and is trying to look and looking at the other puppets, trying to get into it, but he's doing it wrong, and he's clapping wrong, and it's like, and he's stealing the whole thing. He's stealing it from me, and then we at one point, I now I know who it is, and I'm still shooting, and then they yell cut, and I turn with my puppet yelling at him. And he's in tears laughing because he knows what he's doing. He did that so he could just have fun. He didn't have to be the center of attention, but he could still grab it.
Right.
And he just stole it from me. He gave it to me and he stole it. There's one other time that was really funny. We were doing the Muppets 30th anniversary, and we had so many puppeteers because it was the set was full with tables and chairs, and all the chairs with all of the Muppets from everything. From the movies, from everything, and they were celebrating. Everybody was celebrating, the 30th anniversary, and so Steve Whitmire and I, we had to be kind of floor managers for the Puppeteers. We had to make sure that at certain points they would take a specific shot of that table, and the Puppeteers who created those puppets would have to take them off the Puppeteers that are in that table because they have dialogue and all that stuff. So they gave both Steve and I the job of doing that. And then Jeff, I forget Jeff's last name, but he was the floor director. He was the real floor director. And so anything that we would talk about, we have to talk to him. Well, Jim was working. Did I tell you this
No.
one? Okay, so Jim, they was doing this production number, and then there was a whole row of these rabbits. These rabbits, singing a part of it and everything. And we're watching the monitor, and Jeff, the real floor manager there, and Steve and I say, "There's one rabbit that's doing his own thing." It's like, but it's like, and we say to him, Jeff, when they do it again, can you tell that person to do it, the same way? And Jeff knew, and Jeff says, "Are you sure you?" And we looked at the other. Steve was like, "Yes." So we're looking at the monitor, and the rabbits are still up there, and one rabbit comes down. And Jim Henson's face comes up, and he says, and Steve and I are like, "Oh my God, I just told Jim." It was hysterical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny.
Well, he seems like a little mischievous streak.
That was him and Frank. That was him and Frank. Funny. The stuff behind the scenes at Sesame with them, with Ernie and Bert on those beds was hysterical. I mean, the funniest stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they were amazing. They were totally amazing together. And it was such a gift to watch them. It was crazy.
Well, another Sesame Street thing I would love to ask you about is Light and Heavy, which is when you were blowing the feather, because it's such an amazing piece of puppetry.
Well, the thing is, you don't know, you get something and you know what the song is. Everything's been talked about in the production meeting. Everything's, done, and whatever needed to be built is built. And then there's just something that sometimes happens that you just, there was two wonderful things that happened when we were doing that song. One was nobody really thought about how I would be able to sing and blow this feather up in the air and still lip sync and get the feather back in Elmo's hand. And it just worked. It was like, and I remember John Stone, who was the director, producer of Sesame, I couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it that it was actually working and working as well as it. And we got that. We did it in like 1-2 takes at the most.
Elmo and Telly proudly invite you to watch a demonstration of heavy and light. Now pay attention so you get it right, 'cause Telly's is heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And Elmo's is light.
But another thing that happened is one of the recording boxes. There's different recording systems. That one of them went down, and so they had to get that one back up. So in the meantime, Dick Maitland, who is the genius of all geniuses with sound effects, he does all the sound effects and he does them sometime live. So Marty and I, with Telly and Elmo, we're up there, and all of a sudden, we start to hit each other. And Dick gets wind of it, and he starts doing those Japanese, and it just kept building and building and building to the point where the prop guys was getting a bat, and they got, a hammer, and it ended. It was so funny. It ended because there was still the brick for Heavy and Light on that little wall, and I got the bat, and I beat the poop out of Telly. He falls down, and then I took the bat, and I just hit the brick, and then I stepped over him, and Dick got all of that. We had a great time that day.
Yeah.
Just things just happened, and it was great. And they actually got that recorded too, because the one tape was still rolling.
But it'll never be seen.
It was seen. We showed it at the rap party.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because we always had an outtake reel at all our rap parties. We always had a great outtake reel.
Yeah.
And that was definitely in it.
Yeah. Well, I interviewed Matt Vogel, and he told
Mr. Matty.
He told a story about a time how physically demanding Big Bird is, and that he threw his back out.
Oh my goodness!
And that
he told you about that.
You went into Big Bird. So what was it like being inside of?
It was sheer hell. I looked at Carol and I was like, "How, for as long as you've been doing this, you can do this." It's not that it's a heavy puppet. It's just that you have to have your hand up so long, because there's nothing. The only thing that's holding up that head is your arm.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, "Oh yeah, I can do this, okay." And then I was like, "Get me out of please." No, but it was an honor to do it, because that's such a great character.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be looped anyway, but yeah, they were doing these little inserts with Big Bird. It was a little insert that was really kind of cute. And it was Big Bird and Ernie, these segments, and they had to get it done. So
yeah.
Well,
you have done a lot of covering of other people's characters just for shots and different things like that. And like for Muppet Treasure Island, you did Frank's characters. What does a puppeteer have to keep in mind when they're covering another puppeteer's character?
That it's not their character. It's not their puppet.
Yeah.
You gotta know the instinct and the movements of and really do your homework doing that, especially when they're going to come back and loop it. I had to do, I think it was Bowfinger that Frank was shooting at the time when we were doing Muppets Treasure Island, and I had to do all of his characters. And, what was great is he did a table read at one point. They recorded it, so I could, anytime I would get on the set, I would have a cassette tape of that segment of that we're getting ready to shoot, and that would help a lot, because then I know, because I watch and I know how Piggy is, and I know how Fozzie is, and Sam Eagle and Animal. Animal's of course the easiest, but I remember Frank telling me, well, just think of Miss Piggy as a truck driver wanting to be a woman. Fozzie is definitely Jerry Lewis. And what did he say? Oh, he said in Sam Eagle, he's a Republican. He doesn't get along with his daughter at all. I mean, all of this stuff, and it was great. It was he's such. Now you're talking about somebody who actually took acting lessons. Frank did, and he's a brilliant actor, amazing. His homework and his direction and how he creates his characters is amazing. And that comes from the acting classes that he took in New York and stuff like that. So it was very I was very nervous about doing it, but I really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
There was only one part where he was like, I wouldn't have done that. Oh, it's too late now, Frank.
It's already recorded.
It's
in the theaters.
You can't talk to Brian about it.
Leslie Carrara wanted me to ask you about, did you bite President Obama's head with Elmo?
Yes, I did bite President Obama's head. It's very interesting because over the years, because Elmo being so successful, I got to go to the White House. I've got to be around, some amazing, presidents and vice presidents and stuff. And I remember doing something in D.C. with Tipper Gore, Al Gore's president, vice president. Al Gore's wife, and I went to put Elmo on the shoulders of Tipper and his security guard. No, put down. Do not do that. Put down. And even Tipper was like, oh my God. She was like nervous. There's a difference when you're in the White House. You know, they got security. You know, this is the White House,
Right.
So we were taking pictures. Actually, we were doing, it was the Easter egg roll that year, and it was so wonderful. Will Smith and Jada was there with their daughter, and she just did this song called I Whip My Hair Back and Forth, and so she was going to perform that. And the Obamas are really good friends with the Smiths, so they came down to say hello to them, and we just happened to be there. So they took pictures. You know, normally Barack doesn't come down. Normally it's Michelle and the girls and Michelle's mom, because you know he's busy.
Right.
So, but he came down and we took a picture, and I just decided to, like, you know, and I did. I literally just, you know, just bit him on the head, and it's a great shot. And that was rehearsal day. The next day, I saw Michelle again. I said, Michelle, is he mad with me? Am I okay? I mean, they did let me come in, so apparently, she said, I got them to blow that picture up and frame it above my desk in my office. I love that picture. No, but it was great. It was great. It was fun. I had to do something different, you know, but it was fun. They're really good people.
You also Elmo seemed to have a very good relationship with Ricky Gervais. Did you enjoy working with him?
He is so funny. You know, there's people that you just have to be on your toes with. You know, he is beyond. I've done a bunch of things, you know, over the years with him, and that was the first time that I met him. Never met him before. We did that he serenaded to Elmo to go to sleep, and it was so much fun. And what happened is, I think 60 Minutes was doing like a thing on him, and also the Associated Press was there, and so we were doing all of this interview stuff. And I don't know if you saw it, but he was saying stuff to Elmo that he shouldn't be saying to him. But I kept Elmo being Elmo. I would not sway. And we just cracked each other up. It was so much fun, to the point where he asked me to do. There was this whole week of comedians doing stand up all over New York, everywhere, every theater, everywhere. And he asked me, could you do my encore? You know, and we did a rehearsal, and he wanted to sing New York, New York with Elmo. And we rehearsed it, and you know, and I was actually ad-libbing with him, you know, in the rehearsal, saying, now, you know, this is Elmo, so Elmo lives on Sesame Street, blah 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 blah. And it was, and that evening comes, and standing ovation. Hey, he runs back to stage. They pull out the piano. You know, they have covering for me to go. I've run out with my monitor. You know, I got everything. And he comes back out and he says, "What's black and blue and red all over?" And that was fine. And then he said Elmo, and I popped up and everybody went crazy. But then he tried to do some things, and I was like, now, Elmo is from Sesame Street. We discussed this, and it was really a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. And I was actually, you know, I never saw a stand-up.
Oh, really?
So I'm backstage, and I'm watching the screen, and he's talking about stuff. And I know there's a family, so I won't tell you what he's talking about. But I was literally saying, oh, my God, how I can't get out of this. I didn't know he was extreme as he was.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it was like the 40th anniversary of Sesame Street. So, I mean, I thought, you know, the press would take this and run, you know, and you know, and I'm this little character. So we got through it. It was wonderful. And then I ran out of there before any reporters or anybody could say anything. But then he asked me to do it for the Hollywood Bowl. He wanted me to do it for London, and I told PR, I was like, I can't, because I don't know, you just don't know. And then he talked about doing a radio program. He wanted to talk to Sesame about doing a radio program with Elmo, and you asked, it was called Ask Ricky and Elmo. And so he would answer it the way Ricky would, and then Elmo would, and they were like, I don't think that, because they, again, it's all ad lib. So you just don't know. But Ricky is an amazing, amazing talented. I really enjoyed getting to know him over the years and sending him silly Elmo birthday gifts and stuff like that. He's a wonderful guy, talented,
Yeah. What's it like to walk into a store and see a character you performed on merchandise? I mean, you're wearing one of the shirts from Happytime Murders right now.
I think it's more exciting. What I really loved is when I was living in New York and, walking down the street and kids in strollers, little kids dragging Elmo, I think that's really a lot of fun. The exciting thing was when I did Dinosaurs. I remember, we didn't really, you don't know until the show goes on, and you don't know if it's going to be a hit and everything. I knew it was a hit when I would go into the malls and people be running around with the baby, And I remember this couple, this young couple, and she was driving her boyfriend crazy, pulling it and saying "not the mama," all this stuff, and he was getting so irritated that I thought, okay, this is a hit. This is doing well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Dinosaurs a little bit. Were there auditions for Baby Sinclair, or were you just kind of picked to do that?
What was really funny is, working with Brian and Jim, especially, Brian, because Jim had passed away at the time when we were doing Dinosaurs and everything. I did Ninja Turtles. I'd already done Elmo, and that little young kid, and then, Brian wanted me to do Splinter because he wanted me to do something different. And then we went on to, he wanted me to do Dinosaurs. And he said to me, no, I really want you, we're going to come out and, we're going to try to play with all the characters and see which one sticks with who. And so when I came out to LA to do the, the workshop as far as finding out who's going to do what, he asked me to do Richfield and Ethel. So Baby wasn't even in there because he said, you're always doing the young one. Why don't you try something new? So we started playing around, and he said, well, go ahead and try. And I started doing Baby, and Baby, I got this feeling that Baby thought his family was just stupid. They were just idiots, and so I just started saying, stupid, stupid. Stupid, stupid. And it was very funny, because everybody else was doing their thing, and it just stuck. And so that's it. I was with the Baby at that point, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was really, really fun. That was one of the best written shows that I've ever worked on. I mean, it was long hours, because sometimes towards the end of the week, we were shooting until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was challenging, but it was a great show. That was a wonderful show to work on.
How many puppeteers worked with you to operate Baby Sinclair?
Oh, wonderful. Very, very talented John Kennedy, who did the eyes. Terry Harden, who was wonderful with Baby's hands. So it was 3 of us on it.
Yeah.
But I had a good group. We really worked real well together.
Did you, we talked about his catchphrases. Did you come up with those catchphrases?
No.
Those were written?
Mark Jacobs, you're talking about a genius. He was a genius. I remember it was so funny. He took me in he told me to come in his office. And he said, okay, do Elmo's voice. And I did Elmo's voice. Do Baby's. Okay, it is different. Okay, good. But he was a genius. He was the one who, when we did the first episode, it was kind of like introducing everybody. So it was the Earl, his dad, and Baby. They were doing the wraparounds. They were the ones who would talk about something, and then you go to a story about it, and so he was sitting right there off camera. Bill Beretta's inside of Earl, and and I'm sitting down. There's a table, and I'm underneath, and he's throwing this stuff. He's like saying, not the mama was actually, I heard that, actually came from Michael Jacobs' partner, not the mama came from. But like all those catchphrases came from the writers and from for Michael. I love the one that he came up with when I was doing it. He said, you know, just say I'm gonna bite you now, and bite him. So I'm gonna bite you now. But that was fun. It was so much fun to do that show.
Not the mama, not the mama, not the mama, not the mama.
You do that one more time, and I'm going to throw you across the room.
Not the mama. Wee, oof.
Very, very funny show.
Yeah.
A very smart show.
Yeah, still, I mean, even to this, just the other day, there was a whole podcast episode about you know what I mean? Like it's, people are still talking about how wonderful that show was.
Well, what's exciting is, you know, it's coming on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I don't know how many months from now, but they picked it up and they're going to show all the originals, which is going to be fun.
Yeah. Can you just talk, because I know you've talked about this a lot, but maybe just briefly for here, you originated the role of Clifford on the Muppets, and how did that character come about?
That's so funny. We were doing Muppets. Were we doing Muppet? No, because Clifford was already built then. Jim sat down and said, we really need to create a Muppet for you to work with the Muppets. And he said, you know, I've been talking with Kirk Thatcher, and you know, I think Kirk thought about doing a Rasta kind of puppet for me. And so he did designs. I remember going in the office with Jim, and Kirk had different color designs of Clifford. And that's how it all came about. I think he wanted it. He really wanted it because this was around the time that they were going to do the Jim Henson Hour. We shot that in Toronto, and so he was really made for. It was a group of puppets that was made for that show. I think all of us got different funny characters. Dave Gold's got Digit. I got Clifford. I think that's where Bean Bunny was originated. So all of us got all these new characters to go with that show, and that's how that came about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you excited that he was going to be the host of the Muppets Tonight?
I was scared like crazy. That's Kermit's domain. I felt
right.
I was excited, but then something happened where I wasn't happy about because it changed his character. They took his sunglasses off, and it made him too vulnerable. So I really didn't know who he was then, which is a shame because I was looking forward to him being the host, but it wasn't the Kermit, it wasn't the Clifford that I know. Clifford's a very hip, very you can't the glasses is very important to him. But I couldn't convince them to let me keep them on. So unfortunately, it was a little challenge for me doing that show without Clifford being who I know Clifford to be.
Right. Well, I want to talk a little bit. You mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Before you started working on that, had you any knowledge of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before that? No,
nothing whatsoever. I didn't even know it was that big of. I mean, it was huge.
Yeah.
The comic books were. I mean, huge. No, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about Ninja Turtles at all.
My little brother at that time, that was his world.
That was it.
Like he was.
Well,
so
I mean, you find out. I mean, I found out. Because then I started reading up on it, and I was like, wow, this is huge.
Yeah.
And I love the way Steve Barron directed that. He was a genius on that. It almost got him fired because he had this vision, and that his vision was right because of it. Because he really didn't want it to be any kind of kiddie or he wanted it to push it up as far as the age group and make it something kind of really cool, and he did.
Yeah, it's a great film, and it's beautiful too. Just all the mechanics and creatures.
It was number one. It was a box office hit.
Yeah. On Happytime Murders, which we got to work on together, you were the puppet captain, and you've also done that on Sesame Street and other projects as well. Is puppet captain a difficult job, or is it one you enjoy doing?
It's one I definitely enjoy doing. Love it. I love being more than just putting a puppet on. It's so much fun to be involved with the ins and outs of it. I did it with Dark Crystal too. It was a lot of fun. It was really a lot. It's always a lot of fun because I love, because of Sesame, I got to produce, I got to direct. I love directing, and And then, of course, I got to be puppet captain. It's so exciting to get a script and figure out, how to do something, maybe do something different that you've never done before.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of fun, and be involved with that. And also to be involved and sit around and listen to these amazing creative people. That's what happens in those production meetings, to be able to listen to, the lighting guy, what he's thinking about doing, and, or the sound guy. And, I think it's an exciting process.
Yeah. How can we as puppeteers make the puppet captain's job easier?
It's funny. I've never had any. So you made me think of something. I remember when cell phones came in fashion when I was doing Sesame, and that drove me crazy. Because, everybody, I'm trying to get everybody together, and one's over here on that one, one's over there, and one's over there, and you can try to have a conversation with somebody, and they're looking at their phone. They don't even hear you.
Yeah.
So that was a little challenging, being a part of trying to get people to leave them in the green room, leave them, or turn them off, or blah blah blah. That was very difficult. But it's not as bad as it was. But at the beginning, it was very hard.
Right. Well, I want to ask you, in Happytime Murders, we filmed a fun little musical number with a little street band playing.
I don't think they ever showed it, did they?
No, well, that's what I wanted to ask you was we worked on that. We listened to the song, we practiced it, we filmed it. We did like 3 or 4 takes of it, whatever.
And it came out great.
And then it was a lot of fun, and then it doesn't wind up. Is there disappointment when something like that doesn't wind up in the film, or is that just like, that's what happens?
Well, I've been very lucky because the characters that I always get are very integral to, to everything that I've done. So I don't get that much that often, so it doesn't, I don't have to get that frustrated,
Yeah.
But it is okay. It is okay because that's a process. There's not everything that you shoot is going to be there.
Right.
They have to for whatever reason, they have to chop it or they have to get rid of it or redo it or something like that. So
yeah. Well, we were working on Happytime, and you left right after Happytime to go to London for Dark Crystal. Was there like this feeling of full circle because you had not worked on the first Dark Crystal, but now you're going to work on this one?
It was so exciting, and I remember talking to Lisa Henson about that. It was so exciting to get a chance to, because I had to say no the first time.
Yeah.
Not only to get the chance to do it, but do it, where we're shooting 10 episodes, which was great. It wasn't just one movie.
Yeah.
We were doing 10 movies, and that was very exciting. That was really, really exciting, and it was so exciting to meet and spend time with Brian Froud and Wendy Froud and Toby Froud. It was wonderful, very, very, very talented people, to be around and and get to see Martin Baker, who worked on the first one, and Duncan Kenworthy came over and watched, and Dave Goles came back and originated those puff, I forget what they call it.
Fizgig.
This Fizgig, yeah. So it was wonderful and he was just blown away. It was exciting to see him because I got to show him a little bit of the first episode, and he was because reminiscing, those guys, they did that a long time ago.
Yeah.
And to see it, and how wonderful it came together, with the episodes is wonderful.
Well, I know you were the puppeteer for Agra and the Hunter.
Yes.
How difficult are those puppets to operate?
Like performing Winnebagos. It was the heaviest. I remember, there was challenges because I was working on Happytime. I should have gone to London maybe 2-3 months prior to when I went over. Because I was literally, since it was, the time difference, I was having conversations, at like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning with production meetings, trying to keep up with, and because they had questions for me and stuff like that. There was sets that were being made that I was not involved with, and these people, they didn't really know how puppets to be performed in them. So it was very, very challenging to go over. My characters were not really ready yet. A lot of the characters weren't ready yet, but I thought they were gonna. I was there 2 weeks, and I thought they were just gonna say, "Go home," because I would put the puppet on, and for like I would perform it for a minute, and then my arm would just give because the heaviness of it, and so we figured it all out, fortunately, but they were challenging at the beginning, but then it became really exciting. Yeah. It really did. I mean, it really became, and plus, Louis Leterrier is a genius of a director, and I mean, every aspect of it. The cinematographer was brilliant. He had just come off of Paddington. It was just a good, amazing group of people, and a lot of great puppeteers. Yeah, because we needed a lot. So it was a lot of fun.
What was if you can remember this, what was the most complex piece of puppetry you did on that? Like the one you were just like, we got to get this.
Oh, Lord, I had to do this conversation that she's walking around, I forget what, a crystal chamber, I think it was, where she's walking around the Gelflings, having this long conversation, and the set wasn't built to take the floor out the way I needed. So they had me on this, circular track, and this thing is heavy, and I'm saying all this stuff, and I'm sweating like crazy, and I'm forgetting she walks with a cane all the time, so I'm forgetting to move the cane sometimes. I think that was the hardest scene I had to do, because you really need to stand up with that puppet. It's so heavy that you can't be sitting down with your body. You have to stand up that gives you more strength. So that was challenging. Yeah. That was definitely challenging. But it was an amazing experience.
Well, and it's amazing. Like the final product is just fantastic.
I mean, everything is there. It's beautiful. Yeah. Really beautiful. It's the best. I think it's the best television puppets ever done on television. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. And you know that. I mean, it's just beyond amazing.
No, it's great from the first moment you're watching. Yeah. It's just fantastic. In Being Elmo, you talked about Frank Oz saying that every character has to have one special hook, and it's like you talked about where he said Miss Piggy is a truck driver, and Sam's
he said don't be, and you know this because you silly. He said don't ever be scared to be silly, to be just silly. He said that's what it's all about. Yeah. And he's right. You're not, your ego is not supposed to you just be silly, have a good time.
Yeah. Well, I was very fortunate that I got to be a sort of a teacher's assistant for when you did the diversity workshop a couple years ago at Henson. And I wanted to ask you about a few things that you said there, especially you're kind of talking about loose control of the puppet and having the puppet have this loose control, your hands not stiff.
It's interesting that because you would think that's kind of an oxymoron to say loose control,
right?
But it is. I mean, when you watch Jim's Kermit and Frank's Piggy, and they go off on each other. When Kermit goes off on her, Miss Piggy, and then she's like, they're amazing at it. It's that total berserk but control of seeing how you can make a character work without it just being, we call it shaking the dolly, which you don't want to do. Right. And so that's the thing, with being a puppeteer, you have to be careful with stiffening up the puppet, really. Get that looseness, but control it. So that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then the other thing you said was that it's not a hand, it's a human being, or it's a character. Your hand is not... it's not a hand. Right. It's a person, and it has weight. It has mass. It has walking around. You got
me thinking about. Brian Henson and I. We were doing auditions in London for Puppeteers for Muppets Treasure Island or something like that, and this puppeteer comes in, and he puts the puppet on, and he's dancing underneath the puppet. Everything is moving, and because of that, his brain is not understanding that this is what's supposed to be moving.
Yeah, his arm. Yeah.
So his puppet is just there, just doing this, and he's like moving, and it was the funniest thing. And he went on to do Little Shop of Horrors, doing puppets, but also he got to sing and dance and move around and everything. So he got to do both, but it was really funny. But I remember saying to him, because I was shooting. Sometimes I would record, and so I was shooting him, but then I widen out. And then I played that back, and I said, see, now, this is not what you were supposed to do. You're never going to make that puppet work if you're moving that much underneath.
Yeah.
But he started laughing. He didn't know he was doing it.
Well, I wanted to ask you about auditions. I think one of the first times I ever saw you was right after Disney bought the Muppets, and they had that kind of open casting thing for people to come in, you know, to look for other performers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I started doing that, didn't I?
And I remember the first round was, the first thing was, we just put peepers on. I don't even, we may not even had peepers, but it was just lip syncing to a song.
Right.
And what were you, if you can remember, but what are you looking for in that first thing? Like what? Again,
control.
Control.
Yeah. And also, I don't want to just, I want to see that hand turn into, a human, an assimilation of a human. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see that. We normally do, since we can't put, we audition to so many people, we can't put everybody in front of a monitor. So we have a mirror, and everybody looks in the mirror. And as I'm looking, I'm seeing if they focus, if I think that mouth is working, where that a voice is actually coming out. So it's all of those basics but important pieces of making a puppet come to life or a character come to life. So that's what I look at. That's why you don't really need the whole puppet at that point.
Right.
Yeah. But that whole peeper thing came from Jane Henson.
Oh, really?
She started doing that because she auditioned, did workshops with puppeteers a long time, in the early days, and that's where that came from, those peepers.
Yeah. Well, you've run workshops for Sesame Street and the Jim Henson Company. What should puppeteers hope to take away from those workshops when they go to them?
Very important is to listen, take direction. If you don't understand something, ask. Because we're more than happy to tell you, and explain it to you again. You have to understand what you're doing wrong before you can fix it. And so it's very important to listen to if you, like I said, if you have challenges as far as, why am I doing this way? You know what I mean? Tell us. Don't be hesitant to be able to ask us questions and stuff like that, because that's how you learn.
Right.
So that's what those auditions were. Those what those workshops are for. We'll tell you, but it's really good once you start telling us, listen, why is this, because then that means you see that it's wrong, and then you want to change it.
Yeah.
When you don't ask questions, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's a problem.
Right.
I think what is fascinating when you talk about doing, because I've done workshops all over the world, to watch a performer get better and better blows me away. It's the most exciting thing to see, especially when you know where they came from. Sometimes you come into a situation where people have gotten too much experience the wrong way, and so that's harder to train them to do it the way I learned it as a puppeteer with the Muppets and stuff. But when you get somebody that it starts off and it's like, woof, and then it's like, wow, and then they just keep going. It's so exciting. Leslie Carrera is that person. I had to perform her puppets for Muppets Tonight because she wasn't there yet. I had to do Spamela. And then to see where she is now is just, it's beyond amazing. She's a genius. She's beyond amazing. It shows, with just continuation of, and she had it. She had it at the beginning. It wasn't there yet. And she's there.
Yeah. What do you wish, like when you do a workshop like that, what would be your dream sort of skill that all these puppeteers would have when they walk in the room for the first time?
Wow.
Like, this would make it so much easier if everybody knew how to do this.
It's a couple of things. One is know how to get the head out of the shot. Know where to put it, because if you look at how it'd be wonderful to just take shots or find shots of how Frank stands, how Jim stand with a curve. bent down. Everybody has a way, but it's important to understand that. I remember Carol Lee Wilcox, who ran the shop in New York, who's an amazing builder. She is amazing. She amazing builder, but she ran the shop too. And she did a drawing once where there was the ultimate puppeteer, and what it was these two hands up. There would be no head. There would be a hand here, and your head be down in your crotch. Now that's the ultimate puppeteer. And so those are the challenges: head out of the shot, and know how to lip sync.
How to lip sync, yeah.
But also people, Carol Spinney, his lip sync was a different way. Jerry Nelson's lip sync. We all have our own way of bringing these characters to life. So everybody has their way, but it all comes together where it all looks right. You can tell that there's a character and that puppet is working. So.
Right. Well, you are known for your sort of Muppet-style puppetry, and some of that was, sort of tabletop or full-body puppet as well.
I love doing that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried other styles of puppetry, like marionettes or not Boonraku, but shadow puppetry or things like that?
I'm trying to think if I did any of that. I know there was something... No, marionettes. And what was wonderful, Marty Robinson gave me this beautiful, actually minstrel, African-American marionette for a birthday present one year. That was beautiful. I never used, I don't know how to work that. But, no, so I've never done that. Shadow... Why did I keep seeing something in my head from Bunny Picnic where they had the shadow puppets and everything. I know we had shadow puppets in Dark Crystal, but I didn't work them. So no shadow puppets. No, and I'm the next thing I want to learn is the system that the Jim Henson Company has. With the MIT, with the kind of the mocap thing.
Yeah, that digital puppetry studio.
But what's so funny? We had that in the Jim Henson hour.
Right.
Because Steve Whitmire did this, I forget what the character was called, but it was all computer generated. Waldo, yeah. See, and because that's what the MIT was called. It was called a Waldo. And I remember that. But it was, you couldn't believe, it was this huge computer box, It had to be like 6 feet by 7 feet or something like that. And it was on this arm that would move around. It was like all of this stuff that you don't even need to use now.
Yeah.
But it was the beginnings. And already, Jim was already in there, fascinated about the future of all of the technology stuff where you could bring a puppet alive too. So it was great.
Yeah. I would love to see like what Jim would think about, just virtual reality and like the stuff we have now, like how he would use it.
He would go crazy.
Yeah.
He was very futuristic. Everything, he was very much into the future of everything. He was very excited about it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really excited about Fraggle Rock coming back too, because I know that was one of his very important shows that he wanted to do about people getting along and stuff like that. So yeah. I know he'd be excited. No, of course he would definitely have gone crazy over the idea of Dark Crystal coming back and doing a miniseries. He would, because that was his baby. He really wanted to do that before the Muppet movie. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lou Gray said, "No, let's do the Muppet. That's successful. Let's do that. And then if you do that, you can."
Yeah. Well, let's and you can say as much about this as you want or not. But are you working on your own projects? Are you developing your own things?
I'm doing some things. I'm hoping that I'm developing a couple of things, and because of this whole Corona thing, and being isolated, that you have time to really think about a bunch of things. So I'm excited about, creating some things in hopes that, I get to do them. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, as I always like to ask as the final question, what has been the highlight of your puppetry career so far?
There's a couple of things. Meeting Jim, meeting Stu, meeting Kermit, meeting and getting to work with Jim. To get on a show that you watched when you were a little kid, like Sesame, and then get to the point where you create a character that can work alongside Ernie and Big Bird and everything. That's that. I could go away from here just that with that. But and then to be able to be acknowledged by your peers, winning so many Emmys over the years, and them loving what I do. That's that's all wonderful. And then I think another thing that I was so excited about is having a child, and I'd already done so much children's programming, and I had all these, back then it was cassette tapes, of everything, and getting to pull all that out and watch that with her was kind of fun,
Yeah.
doing so many things, and then getting to let her see what I've done before she came to this world. So that was a lot of fun. So there's a lot of wonderful accolades and stuff and also getting to meet so many amazing people, that I never thought I would get to sing with Ray Charles or sit and have a conversation with Michelle Obama, just legendary, wonderful, spending time with so many people, it's been cool.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Really appreciate it.
All right. Now let's go and eat some more barbecue.
All right, let's do it. I can't thank Kevin Clash enough for being on the show. For links to some of the things we discussed, check out the show notes for this episode number 52, over at underthepuppet.com. Well, now it's time to announce the winner of episode 51's giveaway for a 1-year individual membership to Unima USA. The question was, what marionette production was Tony Urbano performing in where the stage manager shot a pistol off right next to his ear? And the answer was Oliver Twist. And the winner is Maudie Himmel of Maudie Puppets. Congratulations, Maudie. We'll be in touch with you about your brand new Unima USA membership. Thank you to all those who entered, and a special thank you to Unima USA. Find out more about Unima USA at unima-usa.org. Well, we have a super fun giveaway for this episode. A brand new in-the-package Funko Pop of Agra from the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, autographed by puppeteer Kevin Clash and voice actor Donna Kimball. To be entered to win, all you have to do is find the answer to this question from the episode you just heard. What was the name of the sound effects designer on Sesame Street who added sound effects to Elmo and Telly's outtake blooper reel fight? When you find the answer, send it in an email to underthepuppet@gmail.com with the subject line giveaway, and you'll be entered to win. All entries for this giveaway must be received by October 15th, 2020. The winner will be chosen at random from all correct entries and be announced on the November 1st, 2020 episode of the show. 1 entry per household. Good luck. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Under the Puppet. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback about the show, call our voicemail line at 818-806-9604 or click the Call the Show button in the free Under the Puppet app for iOS and Android. You can also send them via email to underthepuppet@gmail.com, or you can connect with the show on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching for Under the Puppet. And don't forget to tell a friend about the show. Well, that'll do it for this time. Thank you so much for listening. This episode of Under the Puppet featured music by Dan Ring and was edited by Steven Staver. Under the Puppet is a production of Saturday Morning Media and made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who've gone to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up a monthly pledge for as little as $1 a month. Patrons get new episodes before they are released, behind-the-scenes information, and exclusive bonus episodes. If you'd like to support this show and the other fun content from Saturday Morning Media, become a patron. Head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up your monthly pledge today. You can also tell a friend about the show or leave the show a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Under the Puppet is copyright 2020 Saturday Morning Media, Grant Bachogo executive producer, all rights reserved. www.SaturdayMorningMedia.com. Under the Puppet proudly presents The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth Reunion. In this almost 90-minute video, you will hear great stories from the cast and crew who brought this amazing puppet show to life. Plus, you'll see never-before-seen artwork and exclusive behind-the-scenes video. Under the Puppet's Timmy the Tooth Reunion is available right now at timmy.underthepuppet.com. You've been listening to Saturday Morning Media. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.